Melodic house and techno style bass in FL Studio using 3x OSC and only stock plugins. Let's do it. Here we are again. Welcome back to another In the Studio with me, Donny Carr. Before we get into the video, I have a couple things I want to mention. First, if you haven't seen my community post, I'm doing a subscriber feedback session. I've already got a handful of submissions in, but I'm looking for maybe a couple more tracks to do, feedback for subscribers. So I posted all the info in the pinned comment below this video. So go check that out if you're interested in me giving some kind of brief feedback for your track. The next bit of info is I have 2 tracks coming out, 2 remixes on August 31st, one on Balkan Connection and one on Droid 9. I'm super happy with both of them. So I put pre-order links in the description. If you want to get your pre-order on, your support is always appreciated. If you're watching after August 31st, 2020, well, the tracks are already out, so check them out anyways. Okay, so let's get right into it. We are going to make a melodic house and techno style sustained bass using 3x OSC and only stock plugins, as you heard in the little intro bit. So let's just get right into it. So I have just a, blank slate here with 3x OSC pulled up, and let's dive into the piano roll for a second. When I'm doing a bass like this, I like to start out with just a simple one note, usually just the root note of the track, and then once I get the sound in the ballpark of where I want it to be, then I'll go ahead and jam around with the actual bass motif if I'm doing a melodic bass like this. So this is what it sounds like right now. Just a sine wave right now, playing the G note. So there we go. Let's hop into the plugin here, or the VST rather, and we'll start modifying this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack up 3 saw waves. So for right now, let's just do this one here. Turn that to a saw. And I'm just going to actually grab a low pass so we don't get that super harsh buzzy sound. Just annoys me. So I'm just going to grab a filter, which I'm going to be using anyways, and just soften the top end a little bit while I'm working on it. Might open it up just a little bit. Okay, that's better. Otherwise, it's just going to drive me nuts. Move this over just a little bit. Okay, so the first oscillator is going to be a saw wave. I'm going to leave that just the way it is, and then I'm going to use another saw wave here. I'm going to turn the mix all the way up on this, but we're going to detune these against each other. So I'm going to detune this one. We'll go for about 12 cents. That should work. And then on this one, we will go down. Let's go down, try 13 cents. It's already got a nice kind of wide sound there, detuned sound. And then what I'll do is actually put another saw wave 1 octave above those two, but I'll have it just slightly or quite a bit lower in volume. So I'll just put that around here. And let's detune this one as well. So I'm going to push this one up. That needs to be a saw. Okay. There we go. Okay, yeah, I'll have this one mixed in a little bit lower, about 35%. Now let's work on shaping the actual sound. So we're just going to use the amp envelope first. And I just want like a little bit of an attack on this, not much, but something about there. That should work. The hold I'll just leave where it's at. So same with the release, and I'm going to push the sustain all the way up. Okay, the most important bit here is the filter envelope. So let's dial this in. So I'll probably stick with this low pass ×2 here. That should probably work just fine. But let's just turn this up a little bit, the amount of the filter envelope. And the attack, I want a fairly slow attack with this. Let's just dial that back so we get kind of like a swelling effect with each note change as the filter kind of opens up fairly slowly. Not super slow, but something like that. Give it a little bit of a curve too on the tension. Okay. Should and then I want to kind of dial in the sustain, because after it decays down, I think the decay is fine, but then we want to dial in like the sustain level here. That's too low. probably about good. Let's maybe just pull this amount back. Okay, that's good for now. And then what I'll do is a little bit of processing on this. So let's head into the mixer. So I have just a track set up for it here. The first thing I'll do is you'll hear that it's really wide right now. So if we just look at the stereo image of this, you can see that it's just preposterous, just wide. Yeah. And that's just too wide for the main bass. I want to really dial that in, keep it under control a little bit. So I'm gonna do that with the stereo shaper. So I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna use this preset here, which is just labeled mid. Now obviously it doesn't sound as impressive, it's not super wide, but it's going to be much more mono compatible and under control. I will let it breathe a little bit and give it a little tickle of width while still remaining mono compatible. I'm just going to pull these down a little bit. So I'm going to pull this one down a couple dB. Same with this side over here. That's just going to give us a little bit of width. Here, see? But we're still nice and mono compatible. And then we can always adjust that later if we need to. If I wanted to mono this below a certain frequency, I could always do that. But a lot of times, sometimes I like to just let it breathe a little bit like that, kind of have it wrap around the kick. But again, I might, want to mono that at a certain point, maybe below 150 to the 300 range if I feel like it needs it later down the line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to add is an EQ here. Get this out of the way for a second. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's see what's going on. So I'm going to actually cut the lows probably around 50 hertz. Usually like to have, the kick, let the kick have, the priority in the low end and cut a little bit of the super low end out of the bass. I can always adjust this once I have the bass kind of in the ballpark. That could always be adjusted. For now, I'm just going to do a low cut right there at 50 hertz. I'm going to kind of boost some of the meat here. Give that kind of the weight of the bass a little bit of a boost here, about 5 dB, around 150, pretty wide. going to take off some of that kind of buzzy mid-range and make it a little bit warmer. So I'm just going to grab this guy here and let's just kind of sweep around. Might even just open up the filter a little bit. So you're going to hear those mids. Something about like that. Just kind of really emphasizing the low end here and just taking away some of that mid-range buzziness. I think that's nice. Right on. Next thing is let's add a little distortion and maybe warm it up a little bit. Add a little extra texture to it. Oops. And I'm just going to use the delay for this. And you might be wondering, well, why are you using a delay? Because the FL Studio Delay 3 has a great, distortion unit built into it, and you don't have to use the delay. You can turn the delay module off and just use the distortion. That's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to kick this up a little bit, the saturation level. That's a bit much. Really hear the effect of it there. That's a little bit overkill. Just want something not super obvious, but just to warm it up a little bit. So we'll try that. Give it a little distortion. Let's hear that on and off. So without the distortion. With. Yeah, that just gives it a nice little boost, adds a little bit of harmonics and texture to it. So I am liking that. But I still think it's a little bit buzzy in the mid-range. So I'm just going to add another EQ and just slightly rebalance it a little bit. Just a little bit further here. So I might just pull this down. No, that's not what I want. I want this one here. Just do like a really, like a shelf like this, maybe. And then just take off some more of the top end as well. So we'll just do another shelf here. Let's kind of do like a little tilt style EQ. And yeah. yeah, just to kind of rebalance it a little bit more. I want to, I want this to be really warm, kind of analog sounding, sustained saw bass. So I just want to rebalance it a touch there. I think that's helping out. Okay, so the last thing I want to do as far as processing on this is simply just add a little sidechain. So let's turn the kick on, and let's see here. Hear it with the kick. Let's see. Turn those on. Okay, cool. So I have a copy of the kick here on this kick trig track, which isn't routed to the output, just a ghost kick. And I'm going to use that to do a little sidechain compression with the Fruity limiter. So I've just sidechained it here. And we're going to grab Fruity limiter right here. And we're going to go to the compressor section, and we're going to select our kick trig, which I just showed you. And let's dial in a little sidechain compression. So I'm going to go for, you want a fast attack, but I'm just going to push this up a little bit, maybe 2 milliseconds, just to avoid like any pops or clicks or anything. And then I'm going to turn the ratio up. I think 4:1 should work just fine for this. And we'll dial in the release to taste. So let's just pull down the threshold. Kind of go extreme for a second. Way too short. Way too long. Sounds about right to me. If you do compression this way, the release is really important. That's what really kind of what dictates, how the bass pumps with the track and the kick. So you want to get that right. So I think that's sounding about right to me. Let's ease up on the threshold here. Should be about right. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to extend this little loop out. So I've already come up with a little simple bass melody here. This is what it sounds like. It's really simple. Once I would get the sound to kind of the point we're at now, then I would, jam around on my keyboard and just come up with a simple little melody. And that's what I did earlier. And this is what I came up with. Super simple, just an 8-bar little melody there, and I think that will work. So next thing I want to do is actually send this little bad boy over to a reverb, and I have that already set up here. So let's send it over. really just kind of puts it in a space and just, you know, takes it to the next level, really. So I'm just going to walk you through what I have going on here. It's super simple. So I told maybe a teeny tiny little fib. I did use a third-party plugin for the reverb just because the stock plugin, the stock reverb just doesn't do it for me really. So I used Valhalla Vintage Verb. I used the chamber setting, fairly short decay, I mean 2 seconds, with a little bit of pre-delay, rolled off the top and rolled off some of the lows. I mean, this plugin, if I could only have one reverb, I would choose this one. I could do anything with this and I'd be happy with it with just this reverb. I mean, and it's dirt cheap compared to lots of other plugins. It's only $50 and all of the Valhalla stuff is top notch. So I highly recommend you check them out if you haven't. So just a simple chamber reverb, and then to kind of extend the tail a little bit, instead of using like a super long decay time, I've just followed the reverb with a delay, and I've just used the delay 2 on a ping pong setting and push the feedback quite high, but that just gives the reverb a little bit of a, you know, a ping pong tail. It gives it a little bit of movement, and I think it really sounds nice on the bass. And then I've just followed that with an EQ. I've rolled off the low end, which I just simply, you know, do not want in this reverb. That's why I've kind of done it twice. I've rolled it off here and then rolled it off again just to make sure I'm not getting any like buildup in the super low end. And then gave it a little boost at 1K. I thought that sounded nice on the bass. Really kind of brings out the growl of that reverb from the bass. So I thought that was nice, that little boost there. So that's all that's happening with the reverb. Really simple, but we're not done quite yet. So what I'm going to do now, let's rename this guy. It's going to be our bass. And we're going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to clone it. And on this one, I'm going to go bass copy. And we're going to copy down the MIDI by just selecting that pattern and just copying it with Control C and then Control V. And we're going to mute the main bass just for a second. And yeah, we're going to send this over to track 31. And what I'm going to do is just copy these settings here and paste them on to this one. So we're going to go, and I've actually, so what we can do is just go save the mixer state, and then we're going to open it here. Good, find it. I was messing around with this earlier, so I have another one. That's why I did number 2. So just copying over the exact same processing chain that we did on the first bass. But on this one, what I'm going to do is mute this plugin here so we have a super wide sound. So I'm just going to take this one off. So we should have that a really wide bass sound. Without that stereo shaper controlling it, bringing it back in. And I'm going to layer this in with the main bass. So we kind of get the the best of both worlds. We have the main bass that's, you know, more central focused, it's mono compatible, and on this one I'm going to keep it super wide, but I'm going to roll off most of the low end and then blend it back in with the main bass. So I'm just going to turn this down a little bit because we want this to be tucked underneath the main bass. So I'll just turn it down a little bit. And I'm going to add another EQ here. Let's just make sure this is sidechained. So again, this is also being sidechained by the kick trigger. Let's just make sure that's working. Okay, cool. But yeah, we're going to add another EQ here. And we're going to low cut this guy. So I'm going to actually play it with the main bass, and we're going to find a nice spot to set the low cut. But I mean, I really want to take most of the or pretty much all of the low end out and just kind of have that the mid range be nice and wide and sit on top of that, or kind of be tucked underneath that bass. All right, here we go. It's too much there. It is leaning pretty heavy to the left. So might just rebalance it slightly. Better. And then let's send this, let's call this our bass wide. And we can send this over to the verb delay here. And you know, then because I have two layers going on here, perhaps I might want to, you know, send a little bit less of the main bass over to the delay so you can kind of play with the balance with those to get that, you know, spot on. But I think it's fine for now because I'm rolling all the low end off after the delay and reverb anyway, but you can adjust that to taste. And then I want to do one more thing here. So, you know, I would definitely want to automate the cutoff of both of these bass layers at the same time. So I'm going to set up a little control surface for that. So I'm just going to grab control surface, and we're going to add just a knob, just a regular old knob. And let's just rename this. Let's just call it cutoff. Okay. Let's make it nice and big because big knobs are always fun to play with. And then what we'll do is go to our bass, our main bass, and we're going to right click, link to controller, and we're going to link it to the cutoff surface that we just set up. And then we're going to do the same thing with the bass copy, or our wide bass. Link to controller, do the same thing. You want to make sure this is deselected if it is selected, so they're both linked to the same parameter. So we have our bass wide here. Let's make sure that's working, and it is. Let's just double check the main bass to make sure it's linked. And it is linked as well. So now we have one single knob that's controlling both of those cutoffs, so we can, you know, automate it more easily in the arrangement. We can even just rename this cutoff. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Without that wide bass. Yeah. You could just, you know, blend that into taste as far as the level goes. That's really filling out the sound. And we can check this for mono compatibility too. So let's, I have this little solo plugin from Brainworks. So we can solo the mids just to make sure that, you know, that the bass will translate nicely. So let's hear what it sounds like in mono. Yeah, I prefer it with that wide layer in there. I think that's nice, and I think it will work just fine in mono. Cool. So there you go. There is a melodic house and techno style, you know, sustained bass, and now we can hear what it would sound like, you know, in the context of a track. So I put together this little demo project here with a little drum groove, some atmospheres, and then a few other supporting melodic elements, a few pads, and a little synth riff, so you can hear what this bass would sound like in the context of a track. So I'm just going to play this little groove, let you check it out, listen to it. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And also a shout out to all of you who have signed up to become a channel member. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you like this one. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.